Okay, so we are live right now. And for anyone who is seeing this right now, this you are watching a replay. And so thank you for joining us. And today we are talking. I'm Esme Addison. I have a new book out called An Intrigue of Witches. It's a mystery adventure with science fiction and fantasy elements. And I'm going to be talking with Brittany of Brit Between the Pages. She is an advanced reader. She's a reader on NetGalley and reads books before they come out, which is a really fun thing to do. I do it occasionally. And my book comes out tomorrow. So she's got a sneak peek and we're going to talk about what's in the book. So welcome, Brittany.
Hi.
So where are you from?
I am from the far northern part of California, so a couple hours up above Sacramento even.
Gotcha. Okay. And let's see. So what made you pick this book out off of NetGalley?
First, the cover. The cover like caught my eye because I'm a sucker for a good cover. And then when I saw that it said a secret society, I love secret society type books. Anything that's kind of got secrets and mystery. Yeah, and then I read through the synopsis. Oh, the cover's just gorgeous. Yeah, I love it. It was just one of those covers that just kind of pops out. And then when I read the synopsis, I was really intrigued by, I love history. So anything's kind of got that historical aspect to it. Really kind of sticks out to me. Mysteries. I love a good mystery, especially when it's a mystery that's not solved by someone in like law enforcement. The genre cozy mysteries is usually what they're labeled as. Yeah. When it's just a normal everyday person, maybe with some sort of background in, whatever.
Yeah. Those are my favorite kind of mysteries too.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a huge cozy mystery fan. So I think seeing that too really kind of drew me in. And I gotta try it.
So originally the book was called The Madison Conspiracy. Can you kind of see that? The Madison Conspiracy?
I can see where that comes in. Honestly, I like the title now better, but I can see where that part comes in too. Like, having read the book.
It was originally that because President James Madison had a bigger role in the story. Okay. But as I edited it, his role was diminished and it became about other things. So I decided to change it. But so with the cover, does the cover match the story? Like I've had some feedback where they were like, well, it wasn't, I thought it was going to be like this really like cozy witchy fantasy, but it's a bunch of other stuff too.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of one of those genre bending slightly because it's not perfectly cozy. Because there's like a lot of cozy mysteries start out with like just a town person being murdered and then the baker or the whatever has to solve the crime. This one is a lot different and it still fits in that cozy mystery because there is a mystery that's being solved by a non-law enforcement person, but then you have the fantasy. So I think that the cover really does kind of bring in that fantasy feel that the book has, because it's a very genre bending book, which is very, very cool. But I like matches that feel where there's that fantasy feel, but it's still not like fairies and in another land.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. And so when I have another series called the Enchanted Bay Mystery Series, and that is like a cozy murder mystery series. So my intentions with this one was not to write a cozy mystery at all, but it felt more like a cozy thriller or cozy adventure because I kind of, as an author, I can't get away from writing stories that are set in small towns and just have like, the family, a lot of family around and like food and herbs and like, it's like, no matter what I do, like that's just who I am as a person. Like I like those things and I'm like that. So I always kind of put that in no matter what. But yeah, my goal, this started off as a cozy murder mystery. And it was it was kind of the working title was like the Colonial Museum Murder Mystery series. Like that's what it was. And then over time it changed. And I want to talk a little bit about how, like, where I got the idea from. Okay. So I lived in Fredericksburg, Virginia. when I was a military spouse. And Fredericksburg has a lot of Revolutionary War history. Like they do a lot of reenactments, and there's just a ton of sites and stuff like that. And when we lived there, we would visit Colonial Williamsburg a lot.
Love it.
And
I've been there once.
that place. And then we would also do family trips to the homes of like President George Washington, President Thomas Jefferson, and President James Madison. And so seeing those things, I just had these ideas percolating. I was like, it would be really cool to create a mystery that is set like in historical times, that comes from like that colonial era, but presents itself in modern day. And so that's kind of where I got the idea. But it ended up like I didn't even mean to bring in the science stuff, the sci-fi stuff. But let's talk about that. Okay, so there is science fiction in the book, right? What would you say the percentage of fantasy versus sci-fi?
I mean, the science fiction part, I don't feel like is a huge part,
Right?
And it's hard because it's like it's not super science fiction-y because it feels very modern at the same time.
Yeah,
Like this
right.
could happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, my brain's telling me like 20 to 30% science fiction.
Yeah.
To like, there's been another piece in there of like, just being modern. So I couldn't even say like I couldn't even split from fantasy and science fiction to add up to 100% because there's still this other section too. Because I feel like the fantasy still is only maybe like 60 to 70%. So then you still got this other piece that is made up of all these other parts, like a little bit of the mystery and a little bit of this modern, just
like contemporary times mystery.
Yeah, there's a lot of genres going on in this book.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, and so I like how you described that with the science fiction part, because I wasn't really trying to bring in sci-fi, but I did want to bring in technology. And I just wrote an article for Crime Reads. It hasn't come out yet, but it talks about how basically I talk about writing science fiction for people who don't really read science fiction. And so it's more about like technologies that are in our world today, and things that can actually happen. So there's an element of virtual reality. That's a lot of people have discussed that. So no spoilers here, of course, but that it's mentioned in the book. But it's like that's already here. It's already a thing, So it really, I don't know that it is science fiction, because science fiction is like what stuff that's in the future.
Yeah.
It's just it's technology, everything that we have today, basically. So
yeah, it was definitely one, because I'm not a science fiction reader by pretty much any means. Been very few that have caught my attention, and kept my attention, and so I could feel the science fiction, but it felt relatable.
Good.
There's still parts that my non-science brain was like, eh, but at the same time, it wasn't so far over my head that I was just I lost the story. It was there, but it was still, you could still feel a story building around it too, and it being added to the story as part of it.
Yeah. What did you think about like the magic and like the quantum magic, or the magic with like kind of the quantum science like basis?
I think that's where my brain got confused because I'm not a quantum person, but I'm like, I don't know.
I mean, I'm not either.
But at the same time, when the pieces that I didn't understand were so consequential, whatever the word is I'm looking for, they didn't, consequential maybe, that it didn't take away from the story, that I was like, I have no idea what this means. I don't understand this term. I'm this little paragraph I'm like confused about. I would read it a couple times and be like, okay, let's keep going. And then I would just kind of be like, okay, I kind of understand it when you put in the magic part. Then I was like, oh, okay. Those two together kind of make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
But it just worked. It just, even for someone who does not understand science by any means, does not get science fiction, would never understand quantum physics, even if you dumbed it down to a second grade level, it still worked. It just worked. There were pieces that kind of, I felt like I was like, this feels like this is explaining it too much. I'm getting a little, and then it would just, I'd be like, skim, skim. Okay, we're done. Let's move
Yeah.
on.
So that's what I was mentioning offline, that my editor was saying that I'm explaining too much. And so for you guys who were not in our private conversation prior to this, I mean, like nobody was, like I had like 200% more like sciencey stuff in this book, and my editor was like, please, please, please remove it. It is way too much. Nobody cares this much about this, and I was like, as I was telling you, I want someone who has like a background in quantum science to actually read this and be like, oh, this is believable. Yeah, this is how this could possibly work. Not, I don't know who is out there is going to read my book with a quantum science background, but I wanted it to, and I didn't even really know this, but it's when you add science fiction or sci-fi elements to your book like that, it's called hard science fiction, where it's like based, it's everything is rational and based on like real technologies. And I don't know, that's kind of important to me, like, because I feel like I feel like there is a scientific basis for magic, like things that we think might be magic or unexplainable. I think that there could be a scientific reason for them, and so I like to write about that, like
kind of technology itself. When it started coming out, like computers and technology, I bet the people then were like, where is this coming from? This must be magic. Heck, even electricity. I mean, when electricity started, they're like, what is this? Like, telephones and all that. It was, to them, it was like the science people probably understood it, but an everyday, like Edison and all those guys, they probably understood what was going on, all the sciencey stuff, but just an everyday person was probably like, what is this? That's why there was a lot of people in history that were so against and
technology,
because they thought it was, of the devil and magic and all this sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah. That's a big
that.
Right. That's a big part of what I write, is like kind of exploring that concept. Like, it's not actually magic. It's just science that you don't understand yet.
Yeah.
What I mean? And I feel like as we progress as a society, like a lot of things that, like telepathy, like there's going to be a way, if there's not already, and I actually think that there is, like a way to like create like a neural link that will allow you to, have practice telepathy with somebody else with the neural link. You know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden, like telepathy is not magic, or it's not paranormal. It's just like this scientific thing. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with that, the science and magic in the book.
Yeah.
What did you think? Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was even thinking, like, even just the science that you did bring in, with the VR, that was like that. Like, I think I was laying with my son was sleeping, and I was reading it and in the dark on my phone, my Kindle app, and I was like, I kind of was sitting there like, this feels a little too like this could happen any day sort of situation. I was like, oh boy, kind of makes you stop and take notice.
Yeah, I mean, and I did a lot of research for this story, historically, the technology, the science, magic. I want everything to be as realistic as possible, even though I'm writing, fantasy, like it's all like, I tried to verify as much as I possibly could. And everything with the virtual reality, like none of that was made up. Like, it's like the possibilities of what you can do and where people are going with it. Like, that's actually happening now. Like, it's not widespread yet, but eventually, I mean, I think the goal is for people to have, virtual reality environments where you can go visit your doctor. Like right now it's telehealth, but you can put on your set and go see your doctor and like feel like you're in the doctor's office, and you know what I mean? Like, it's an actual like interaction. I think that's where we're going. You know what I mean? So there's good and bad with that.
It felt like there was a good amount of research, because even the secret society part, but even that part was like so it just was like there, and you like, I mean, I got a little even that part got me a little confused between this side, this side and this side, and then sometimes trying to follow the lines, and I'm like, wait, what are the rules? But I was like getting into it and being like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something would happen. It would just take me for
Yeah.
another loop.
Was it like a fast read for you? It was so this book I've seen some reviews where they're saying like it seems like a short book, but it's actually 105,000 words. And most books are like 70, 80,000. So it's actually a really, really long book.
Yeah.
But
That's a hard book thing for me to answer because I read fast to begin with. I'm
me
just a
too.
fast reader. Um, so, but on average, it felt like an average read. It wasn't like a fast read. Like
Okay.
there's some books like little cozy rom-coms that I can read and like it's hard for me to say because I read during naps and bedtime
Yeah, I
when my
understand.
baby wants to sleep on
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Um,
babies.
yeah. I can't have a physical book because I got grabby babies. But I think in total it took me because I watched that little timer thing at the bottom. It's like this book's gonna finish in this much. I probably took me like a total of 4 hours,
Okay.
which is kind of on the I want to say it's kind of average longer side. Because a fast read for me is like 2 hours. But then there's some that might take me longer than 4 hours. If I think the ones that take me longer than 4 hours are the ones that I'm like, okay, where are we going with this? I'm getting kind of bored in these sections. Okay, this section's okay. Enough with the world building. Let's get some characters going on. But there weren't really any spots I feel like in this book where it just kind of dragged too long. Obviously, the sciencey parts that for me were a harder read were like,
Yeah.
okay, we're done. And moving on to the story, the parts that I want to read.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a reader, there are parts of the story you want to read. You're like, what's happening next? And then you get to this point, you're like, come on, let's get back into the story. I want to hear more
Yeah.
about this. Like I was really into her solving the puzzle, the mystery, the puzzle of the whole
Right.
book.
Right.
I was really into that.
Okay, good, good. So going back to like the historical part because we haven't discussed that yet.
Yeah.
So what did you think about like the myth behind the story, which is a real myth,
Mm-hmm.
and like just kind of the history that was in there? What were your thoughts about it? Like, did you know any of that history? Was it interesting or?
So it's really interesting. So just so everybody knows, I actually have when I had to take electives, a lot of my electives were history electives. And
Okay.
I very much I love colonial times. I've actually visited Monticello. I've been
Okay.
way back when I was in high school 20 some odd years ago. And loved it. My heart is in the Old West. I love the Old West, that kind of, forward movement in the history.
Mhm.
But definitely love colonial times. It's probably like my second or third history genre, and it felt very real. Like almost like I was like, is this fiction? Like
I'm happy to hear that.
I'm not up to date on all the secret societies just because again it's kind of not where my heart is at.
Right.
But I was like, wait, and it was kind of easy. I mean, there were parts where I was like, I'm really confused for a second. And I kind of needed like a timeline almost,
Mhm.
or like a tree, like a family tree sort of situation in some instances.
That's actually a good idea. It's a great one, a family tree.
Yeah, I know a ton of readers that love maps, family trees, timelines, anything that kind of gives us a visual.
Yeah,
There
I'm
was
gonna.
points do I
Yeah.
need to write this? Do I need to write these people down? Because like I'm a little confused here for a second. But then it was almost like I don't want anybody listening to be like, she was really confused. Trust me, even if you're confused for a second, the book holds you. Like the story holds you because you want to know. There's so many little tiny little intrigues in there, little mysteries about this person or that person or this person and this aspect and this little piece that when some little tiny thing clicks, it just makes it all that much better. So
I'm happy.
even though
That's good.
I don't understand that part of history as much as other parts, it felt relatable and it felt like it could be true. And you're like,
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
and I like how this secret society is brought also into the history with obviously it's Intrigue of Witches, so there's the history our country has with witches is
Right.
brought in there too, and it's like, oh, like it adds more to that history when you bring in that little bit of this could have happened sort of
Right.
part
Yeah.
with the secret society.
Yeah. And that all that kind of just came organically to me, you know, as I was creating the story. I was like, wait a minute, like, because, you know, I have this, like, there's an immigration from, you know, from Scotland. There's Scottish history and mythology in here. So
Yeah.
you know, but I was like, maybe, you know, because there's a history of like witch hunts in Scotland. I was like,
Yeah.
maybe that's, you know, and King James and his book Demonology and all that kind of stuff. Like, it all just kind of like flowed together. I was like, did this really happen? Is that what happened?
Yeah,
You know,
that's what it felt like.
Didn't feel like it could have happened.
It felt like it was telling another piece of history that was possible.
Yeah.
And like, you know, because we never know always of what, you know, there's so much that's lost in history to, you know, fires and damage, and there's, you know, papers and works and stuff that have been lost that we might not know exactly how this all happened.
Do you recall the part where the main character Sidney is talking about, or she learns about how like most of the presidents are related? Did you hear that? Have you heard that before?
I have never heard that before, but
Yeah,
the explanation in the book was like, your brain just kind of goes, what?
Yeah, and that's actually all true. That was all like historical.
Oh my god,
all true.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and the information about who they're related to and the different kings and which king stole this from that place, like all true.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I mean, it's one of those creepy cool things, you know, like Ripley's Believe It or Not, sort of, you know, where it's cool, but it's kind of creepy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that makes it like there's like multiple secret societies going on in this book.
Yeah, and there are, I mean, you know, supposedly there really are secret societies. You know, mine are, I think, made up. Like, I mean, I made them up in my head, but
yeah. I mean,
well,
so many people have heard of the Freemasons, and that's, you know, considered a modern day secret society.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I know every time I walk past the Freemasons building, every time where I used to live, up in the coastal Northern California, up by Oregon, what's going on in there?
Right. Leadership and town founding. What's
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think of, have we covered everything? Because we've actually been talking for 27 minutes. So this has gone by pretty fast. This is good. I want to mention the book comes out tomorrow and you are able to pre-order. You can buy it wherever books are sold, but if you want to support a local bookstore, I'm giving shout outs to the bookstores that I'm having events at this summer. And so Persnickety Books in Burlington, North Carolina is a great place to buy your book. And I'm going to put that information in the post after this call. After like a Zoom call. After this, our talk, if you want to order your book from there. And it can be that bookshop. I know, Persnickety is so cute. I can't wait to go there. Again, that's in Burlington, North Carolina. So I feel like I'm trying to think if there's anything that we missed. We didn't, the grandmother. I know you said you liked her character.
Oh, her character was so funny, and like this, like just this old. She felt crotchety but sweet at the same time. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's like, but yeah, her character was throwing me through most of the book. I'm like, how? And then when her, like, all this stuff comes together at the end, I'm like, hold the phone.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
There's just so many little pieces in this book that you're going through, and it's like, and then there's pieces that you go, like I told you in the talk before, there's certain characters that something happens, and I'm like, wait a second. And then it keeps building, and then it's like, oh wait, I bet that what I thought back then is true. And then it builds, and then everything just kind of explodes all at once, and it's just your brain is literally at the end going, oh, okay. Right. Everything kind of makes it, like, it just kind of, I don't know. one big giant climax at the end, and then a bunch of like little ones kind of fall off too.
Yeah.
That just are totally. Sorry, I can hear my baby crying, screaming
Well,
downstairs.
one more question, and then we're done.
No worries.
Did you were you able to guess like who the bad guy was? Did you have any ideas?
Did I? I think I sort of did.
You're a baby and my dog.
Yeah. My brain is trying. I was so involved in the historical and the secret society part that my brain's now going, who was the bad guy?
It's okay.
Yeah, I think I'm like, was it this person or was it this person? I kind of figured out that aspect too. Like I sort of was like guessing and going, I wonder. And now my brain's going, I think I had it. I think I sort of did. But it was still like, there's still parts to that, even that reveal, that I was like, oh wait, I didn't guess that part. I didn't guess that's why.
Right.
So there were parts that were still kind of, even if you guess pieces of it, there's still other parts that you're just like, especially I feel like the grandma was the biggest one for me, that I was like, I didn't even see that one coming. Did not see that one coming at all.
Yeah. Good. Okay. All right. Well, our time is up, and I really enjoyed this chat. And I'm glad
thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, reading an early copy of the book and providing a review and chatting with me today. So it's been fun.
Yeah, I loved it. It was such a great book. Everybody should go buy it. Anybody that likes fantasy, but cozy fantasy that's not so highfalutin that it's literally another world, that likes kind of a more modern feel. Yeah, check it out.
Okay.
It's great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Bye.